Ever notice how silence can feel louder than words? How an empty room, a long pause, or someone staring without speaking sends chills down your spine? Tonight, we're going to dive into why silence terrifies people more than words. It's not just awkward, it's psychological, it's primal, and it reveals more about human behavior than most people are willing to admit. Stay with me until the end, because once you understand this truth, you'll never look at silence the same way again. Words fill space. They explain, clarify, distract, comfort. But silence? Silence leaves you alone with your thoughts. And that can be terrifying. When someone refuses to respond, when a question hangs in the air unanswered, your brain starts filling in the blanks. Did I say something wrong? Are they angry at me? What are they thinking? That's the first reason silence terrifies us. It forces us to confront uncertainty. And humans hate uncertainty. Our survival has always depended on reading signals, knowing what others think. Silence removes that safety. Think about an argument. When someone yells, insults, or lashes out, you know where they stand. But when someone goes silent, refuses to respond, just looks at you, it's suffocating, because silence during conflict feels like a psychological weapon. It denies you closure. It denies you control. And it forces you to sit in the tension. Psychologists call this the silent treatment, and it's one of the most painful forms of emotional punishment. Why? Because our brains interpret it as social rejection, and rejection feels like death to our primitive instincts. Here's the unsettling truth. Silence doesn't just reveal others, it reveals you. In silence, you hear your own insecurities. In silence, you notice how much you crave approval. In silence, you realize how desperate you are for answers, reassurance, and connection. This is why so many people can't stand long pauses in conversation. They rush to fill the void with small talk, jokes, or meaningless words, because silence exposes their discomfort. But the quiet ones? They don't play that game. They understand the dark power of holding silence and watching everyone else squirm. Here's a real-world example. Interrogators often use silence more than words. Imagine this. You're sitting in a cold room, a detective across the table. He asks a question, then just stares at you. No notes, no expression, no sound. The silence grows. Your heart races. Your brain scrambles to fill the void. And before long, many suspects crack. Not because of threats, not because of shouting, but because the silence became unbearable. Silence makes people confess things they would never reveal under pressure. Now let's shift to something darker. Horror. What's scarier? A monster screaming as it runs toward you, or a monster that stands in the shadows, silently watching? Filmmakers know this. That's why the most terrifying scenes are often quiet. The long, suffocating pauses before the scream. The footsteps that stop. The silence that leaves your imagination to run wild. Because here's the truth. Our imagination creates fear far more powerful than reality. Words define, but silence lets your mind invent. And what you imagine is always scarier. Here's where it gets really interesting. Silence isn't just scary, it's controlling. Think about powerful leaders, teachers, or even parents. The ones who don't shout. The ones who don't need to raise their voice. They pause. They wait. And suddenly, everyone leans in, desperate for their next word. That's not weakness. That's dominance. Because silence flips the script. It makes others react to you, instead of you reacting to them. That's why some of the most intimidating people in history were not the loudest, but the ones who knew when to say nothing. Here's something more personal. Relationships. Silence between lovers can feel like a dagger. Because when someone you care about goes quiet, it feels like distance, rejection, even abandonment. But on the flip side, silence can also be deeply intimate. Think of sitting with someone you love, in complete silence, yet feeling closer than ever. That's the paradox. Silence can terrify us when it feels empty, but can also become the purest form of connection. So, why does silence terrify people more than words? Because silence is a mirror. Because silence forces your mind to speak louder than any voice. Because silence reveals truth, while words can hide it. And here's the darkest secret. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Silence is mystery. Silence is power. The quiet ones, the ones that don't need to say much, they're the ones people remember, the ones who unsettle others, the ones who draw attention without asking for it. So the next time you find yourself in silence, don't rush to fill it. Embrace it. Use it. Because silence is not empty. It's the loudest statement you'll ever make. Quiet isn't weak. Quiet is unforgettable. Quiet is terrifying because it reveals everything words try to hide. Do you agree? Does silence scare you more than words? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more insights into the hidden sides of human behavior, make sure to subscribe.